Yay.
Oh shit, I need my hat. You guys take this before me. I'll be right back.
No hat, no hat. No, we like you here. Oh,
Okay, we are already live.
no.
So, hey
Well, then I'll
everyone.
take it from here. The
Yeah,
Ragtag Bunch. Welcome to the brave, bold new world of international online democratic nations. IOD Nations, International Online Democratic Nations, is a citizen-led digital democratic online of nations. We're building tools and campaigns that pro-democracy citizens unite online. We are not a political party and not a think tank. There is no need to pay any membership fees. All we ask is if you believe in a democracy and you're a democratic, like-minded person like us, then we just encourage you to become a citizen of iodnations.org. Take it away, Chardonnay.
Oh, okay. We are so happy to be with all of you. And I'm just going to do a quick introduction of some of the wonderful people who are with you. The person who just spoke is Peter Mugler, and he is, oh, I just want to make sure that I said, yeah, I did say your name right, Peter?
Yes, you did. That's pretty
All
good.
right, yay for me. Okay. And Peter is my co-volunteer coordinator. And we're just having a lot of fun trying to get people involved with us. And we are just bringing democracy to the world with laughter and joy and love and fun. It's just, we're having a great time. You should join us just for that. But Peter is from Montreal, Canada, and he's just bringing that viewpoint and some great things to us from Canada. And I love it. And I'm sorry that I'm kind of blurping because he surprised me. I wasn't planning on talking today. So this is kind of fun. This is Chardonnay surprised. Okay. At least I'm honest, and you'll always get that from me. We have Rakesh, and Rakesh is from Bangladesh. This is so exciting.
great.
I love Rakesh is our project manager. So you have to join us so we can make more projects to give him and keep him busy. And I mean, he's so busy, but he loves to be involved and he loves to work on new projects. And when he does, wait until you get to see some of the things he's created. He is just so creative and he puts his heart and soul into everything he does. And he's one of the most wonderful people you're ever going to meet. Um, Maybe you'll get to go to
Thanks so much.
Bangladesh and meet him in person. It'll be fun.
You are always welcome.
He's great. We IOD Nations, you see that there. That is actually Joel. And Joel,
So,
not Joel, yeah, yeah, Joel. Um, and Joel was our Joel Coleman. Joel Coleman was the start of all this. We none of us would be here. We wouldn't be inviting you to join us. We wouldn't have any of this without Joel. His brain, his heart, his soul, his money, his pennies, his dollars. We wouldn't have any of this without him. It was his idea, it was his baby. He thought of it. He said, if businesses don't have to be brick and mortar, then countries don't have, we don't need boundaries. There's no reason for boundaries. We can have people joining with people and getting together and making the world better, one person at a time. And that's the same thing that I learned when I died on the other side. And that's why I joined, because it's exactly what I learned. And when I heard Joel say it, I said, there it is. He knows. He knew. Even he didn't have to die again. He just learned that on his head and remembered it. That's why people, when they come in and they hear this, they come in, you'll come in, and maybe you don't even know why you're here. It just happened. You just showed up one day. You just showed up today. And you said, why am I here? I had no plans on being here today. That's why you're here. You were brought here. Something inside of you said, you need to be here. You need to be a part of this. This is for you. You are needed at this moment in time to create something bigger, something almost unworldly, almost that just is going to make a difference, that was meant to be. This was meant to be, and you can be one of the founding parents. And Joel has opened this up. He's taken his baby and he said, okay, it's ready to present it to the world. And this is Joel right here. He just went from Iod Nations to a human
Joel,
face.
Joel was struggling with his video camera. So
He's
um
human.
yeah, yeah. Ain't that the truth? Thank you so much, Chardonnay, for all you do. Chardonnay has been a wonderful, inviting, friendly voice. So um, it's awesome to work together, and we really appreciate all she's doing to help us out and everybody that you see on the team here. Um, so Chardonnay, if you're cool with it, I'm gonna sort of just jump in there. It looks
Take
like
it away, Joel. And just please,
we've got
Draco wasn't introduced. Please introduce Draco for me.
well, Draco, welcome everybody. You are at IOD Nations, International Online Democratic Nations.org. We are the only Substack out there that's promoting a viable, easily implemented solution to the problems that we're facing. Um, Draco is Chardonnay introduced everybody. We've got our team from Bangladesh, which is Rakesh, Nosib, and Draco. Draco, we call him our AOP, our Agent of Peace. And then we've got Chardonnay and Peter who have volunteered. Chardonnay lives in the States, and
We've got
Peter
Chardonnay and
is from Canada. And so they are
who have
helping
volunteered.
me
Chardonnay lives in the
and
state.
other people here make this possible. And I'm trying to figure out why I'm getting background noise of my voice. But we're going to wait until we get about 40 people here. It takes us a little while to get the crowd in. If anybody is here who would like to come in and join us in the Zoom call before we get into the meeting, if you are familiar with what online democracy, citizen-led online democracy is, we've got Suzanne. Suzanne, I'll come in and speak with you in a minute. We're going to post a link in our Substack chat so that anyone who wants to come in and join Suzanne, we like to get a certain number of people here before we roll into the actual presentation. and it's also good to invite conversation. So Suzanne, feel free to unmute. Have you been here before? Are you familiar with online citizen-led democracy like Taiwan is doing or any of that? Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Sure. I am not familiar with your organization. I'm just out having a walk, a sniff walk with my dog. So I thought I would log in and listen. I'm in Utah, Salt Lake City, and Ogden areas. And I'm active with the Ogden NAACP and some other community led organizations. Um, but just really looking for a way to make a difference with other people to collaborate
How
and
cool.
yeah, so that's me. I'm
On a,
retired. I'm older, and yeah, have just had a business. You know, we own a small chain of coffee shops, and so we're phasing out of that a little bit and having some new people come in and take over. And so got some more time on my hands, and just want to help build community.
how cool. Let me go in and I'll tell you a little bit. Um, uh, so I've been developing this idea for more than 10 years that the citizens of any state, any nation, or anywhere in the world can and should be united online democratically. Um, the I had came up with a quote that says, if a business no longer requires brick and mortar, then a nation no longer requires land and borders.
Mm,
And what I what I didn't realize was that as I was struggling so hard to try and communicate this to people in Taiwan, and we're going to play a video of her. Um, there's this gal named Audrey Tang. It's spelled Tang. And there in 2014, there was a youth citizen led rebellion called the Sunflower Movement. And the citizens of Taiwan had reached the point their government was just so screwed up. They only had a 9% approval rating by their citizens. And these primarily young people rebelled, and they demanded that the government engage with them in a way that would work with them, which was utilizing the internet and doing it online. And so, um, if we're fortunate enough to have you stay through this, I don't know if you're out walking, if you'll be able to see the video, but you'll hear some of the discussion that we've sort of clipped and pared down, and I've done some comments on. But what's amazing is they've actually evolved and developed and implemented this whole system to the point where the citizens of Taiwan went from a 9% approval rating of their government to a 70% approval rating of their government, which
wow, that's
in
amazing.
this yeah, in this day and age just seems almost unreal. And it has dipped a little bit since then. It's a challenge to implement this, but when you see it, they've been able to do it in a way. They have 50% of the citizens of Taiwan are actually registered online in this online citizen-led government that directly interacts with and really in some ways drives the Taiwan national government. Um, and so, for instance, the process is kind of like this. Anyone who's online and registered as a citizen can submit an idea to the community. So, for instance, there was a 17-year-old girl who saw some of the stuff about plastic straws. She submitted a request for a ban on plastic straws in Taiwan. Once 5,000 Taiwan citizens support something like that through the online portal, the government is then required to deal with it. And so in pretty rapid fashion, the government put out, to the best of my understanding, a a petition or a law or however they constructed it, and it passed. And so Taiwan banned plastic straws because a 17-year-old girl engaged with the government online and requested it, and the citizens of Taiwan supported that. And that just seems to be just such common sense. What does it? I mean, I'm imagining, but how do you see that? What does that open your eyes to any of this?
Well, it does. When you said any citizen can log on, do you mean a citizen of your nation, or just any Taiwanese person could log on and make a
Well, so what
suggestion?
yeah, what I'm talking about, so to try and paint this picture for people who are in this live chat, it's the idea that I always had, but I didn't realize that Taiwan had actually implemented it. Okay. So we're at an infancy stage, and we're in the process, or we'll be working through the process this week of starting to reach out to Audrey and the Taiwan movement. She became I'll call it a cabinet member. I forget the exact title of um I forget the title of it, but it had to do with technology. She was like the cabinet member for technology in Taiwan.
Oh, nice.
We are we have this um, rudimentary portal on our website where, for instance, you could go on and become a citizen. You could just share an email, you'd become a citizen of iodnations.org. Okay.
Okay, that was
And
my question. So she was a citizen of your entity in Taiwan, not your entity, but their
no, no,
entity
no,
that was
no.
active.
Of their entity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like the foundation of it. When you watch what's going on, when we share the video today of what she's done and what Taiwan has done and the extent that they've developed it, our platform is is so infantile compared to what they've implemented. And if I remember correctly, Iceland, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Ireland are currently in contact with her and with them. And they are in the process of implementing this with their citizens of their countries. Now, so that they can develop this online citizen democratic integration with their existing government. What's Helsinki is what Rakesh is saying. But what's completely different about this when you come in and listen to us is we envision a world where, let's say, those 50% of the citizens of Taiwan, I look at it this way. Imagine that they are facing their national government, right? And they are integrated with and working with their national government. We contend that those citizens could also at the same time turn around and face the whole world. And they could, in essence, establish their own parallel citizen led online government that comprises the citizens of Taiwan. And they could say to the world, come join us. We are an online citizen led democratic Taiwan. We, as the citizens, will operate parallel to our existing government. We will work with them, but we will be independent. We can create our own constitution, our own Bill of Rights, our own Declaration of Independence. And what IOD Nations says is, for instance, Suzanne, you could decide that you want to become a founding member of the IOD Women's Nation, okay, the International Online Democratic Women's Nation. And because what happens is when you unite online and you turn and you face the world, you can develop two kinds of citizen-led nations. You can do a cause-based nation, okay, which could be women or veterans or artists or LGBTQ plus or whatever it is that the citizens of the world decide they want to unite online as. However, because it's online, because if a business no longer requires brick and mortar, then a nation no longer requires land and borders. You and I and Peter and Chardonnay, Peter can become a citizen of the online democratic Canadian nation. And the three of us, we can become citizens of the online democratic US nation. And what happens is, as an active participant in online democracy, we can exponentially compound our ability to affect change, because you could become, for instance, a citizen of the International Online Democratic Art Nation and the International Online Democratic Women's Nation and the Online Democratic US Nation. And you can help those different nations collaborate. So as we're watching the damage that's being done to, for instance, we'll take women's rights as an issue, as we watch what is happening in the United States. And if it's happening in the United States, it's going to affect other people around the world. The women's nation can collaborate with the Canadian nation or the Bangladesh nation or the veterans nation or the art nation, and you can multiply and compound your ability to affect things. And that's where we're proposing something that is the same format that Taiwan is doing, but really blowing it up into an international movement where, imagine the power and influence that an international online democratic women's nation could exert all across the world.
Yeah, I can see that. That's um, so you're a methodology of organizing around different issues internationally, but with your own local, either be it state or, well, I guess you'd be American. I think I get it. I think I've got it.
We'll share some things with you, that will further explain that, and we'll give you. So we've got a wide variety of videos, and we're evolving those, and we're doing better with them. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and we we are a passionate group promoting this, but we are not overly tech savvy. Okay, so we're some of the stuff that you'll see is a bit rudimentary, um, but it's the concept, it's the idea, and the most important thing about all of this is that it flips the script. So we the all of us around the world, like everybody who's here, most of us have this shared feeling of our inability to influence or change things. Our government's not really working for us. It hasn't been for a long time. The wealthy and the powerful and certain special interest groups and authoritarian and business groups have 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 obtained this unfair advantage, and they're using the internet to do it. And we're going to show you how we flip that. So one of the other sayings that we have is, we do not access the internet. So if I were to ask you, and I'm going to invite Jamie in here, Jamie, if you want to comment, feel free to jump in if you're in the Zoom where you are, at the bottom, you can see a react button. And if you want to talk, you can just click that button and raise your hand, and I'll bring you into the conversation. And then we're going to go into our normal program and some of the videos we've got. But if we were to ask anybody in this group, do you access the internet? Almost everybody would say yes. But we look at it as kind of like the glass is half full versus the glass is half empty. We don't access the internet. We grant platforms that have established themselves on the internet. We grant them access to us. And that changes the power and influence dynamics of the whole internet, as you will see. So Jamie, go ahead. We're glad to have you here. What are your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Busy and exhausted,
Okay.
like most people. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I mean, I think we're kind of coming to an interesting time, at least in America. And I know a lot of people in the group are, Jill's from the UK and Peter's in Canada and Rakesh and the others, Bangladesh. And, um, but here in America, I mean, we're preparing for a UFC cage fight in front of the White House for our 250th birthday, and you know, it's uh, it's getting to the point where there's retailers are still hanging on to the sell dream, and people are kind of over it. Some people are checking out, and I think that we need to try to find a way to gain some momentum both online and offline, frankly, because there's kind of a growing movement of people being really done and tired of being controlled by the 1%.
You know what's so interesting about that is um, I've I've done a lot of introspection and insight on the way my mind works, okay, and how I develop this idea and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I do is I have a predisposition to flip a script. So I think of it like this, like yin yang. Anything that's good is bad, or is positive is negative, and all of that. And when you talk about that, I think one of the other aspects about our world that has led to part of this is our loss of personal connection, in our communities. And um, we've we've kind of lost some of that collaboration. And what I think is we're going through this thing where we're worried about AI, and we're blaming it on the internet, and we're talking about all the problems that social media is causing and all of that. But really what fits under the umbrella of what we're talking about here is, let's flip that script. How do we use the internet to promote and encourage and involve us locally, and involve us engaging with each other, right? Because it is this amazing tool we have, where at the click of a mouse we can connect with each other. And why not use that better within our communities to develop that? It just seems, again, kind of in the model of uniting online democratically. I see it as also, let's use it to collaborate and commune as fellow human beings in our communities, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the model works, the ex-Taiwan model works, but
No, no.
there's a lot of political and technological interference from, the powers that be. And I think that some of that is gonna change, but also, you know, AI is now tied into all of our global supply chains and global financial rings, and it's rules based. So there's a lot of bad players. I mean, there's at work we have the tech crashing constantly. We're all under, cyber attacks pretty constantly, and there needs to be more good going into the ocean than bad, like you say. And yeah, the yin and the yang, that's kind of the physics of how things have to change. But I think there's a certain amount of people that are just burnt out on trying, that maybe need to be reconnected physically before, and recharged, frankly, from all of this before we can, you know, communicate in the strength of numbers that's needed to pull something like this off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to invite Donna in, Jamie, and then I'm also, as a part of this, I'm going to address a question that Vivian has where she says she doesn't see where she can fit in. So I think what I'll do is, I know you've seen a lot of our content, but I want to share that with the other people who are here and move through the show. So, um, to try and help them understand that, and then hopefully you'll be able to stick around and help discuss that with some of them, and we can get them engaged if that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Donna, any thoughts? I see you there before I address Vivian's question.
I just think we have a lot of work to do. I agree that disengagement is not the route we need to follow. I think it's hugely challenging to tell people the need to function as a community, because people don't know what that is. So we need a lot of people thinking and trying to provide some leadership.
Well, okay. What we will try to do today is we will try to show that there are these ways to utilize the internet, that the ability to accomplish those things. And I'm not portraying this as some pie in the sky, all you have to do is click your mouse or tap your screen and everything's going to be wonderful. I'm not that naive, and I don't think most of us who are here are that naive. But our premise is that democracy always fails. Throughout history, every democracy that has ever happened has failed. And it's gone through this strife and these problems and these challenges. And I'll actually hopefully read a section to you from an article that I wrote, that addresses that. And so our premise is the hard work, once we're united and trying to figure out how to collaborate and how to work through that democratically, will always be the process. But the ability to unite is easier and quicker than it has ever been before because of the internet. So Vivian, your comment was, where do you fit in? And the what we would say to you is, you can fit in however you would like. And so, Draco, we're going to start the show today with the law of diffusion of innovation with Simon Sinek. So if you can get that ready, I think that'll be kind of a good way to kick the show off. We've got about 62 people here, and we can use that to kind of address what Vivian is talking about before she has to get out of here. So, Vivian, I'll when Draco has that ready, what I would say to you is, because of the opportunities that the internet grants, you can participate, you can fit in from as simple as clicking on and saying, I'd like to stay with you, iodnations.org, and follow you and just see what happens. And I can do that simply by clicking my mouse and following you, or becoming a subscriber on Substack is another way you can do it. We're working on getting our YouTube channel up in a different way that it is right now. So it's that simple. You can click your mouse and follow it and follow us. You can also do it to the point where you could say, damn it, I love this idea. I'm totally behind the idea of the women of the world uniting online, and I'm so excited and enthused. I want to help make that happen. I'd like to run for president of the International Online Democratic Women's Nation. And you could choose to do that, and anything in between. You could work with us on email campaigns. You could work with us sharing things in social media. There are literally almost no limits to your ability to fit in. It's simply a matter of what we all, as active pro-democratic citizens, want to do and choose to do. I learned about Locke and Rousseau. Locke is considered like the one of the foundational teachers of democracy, and Rousseau took it and evolved it into how citizens need to interact. And hopefully I'll get a chance to read that. Draco, there we go. So Draco's going to bring up a video of Simon Sinek. I believe it's the third most watched TED Talk, and we've cut a section out of it that directly relates to what we're talking about. So go ahead and hit play, Draco.
Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters,
Draco.
they're comfortable.
So, Vivian, you and every person here, all of us, whether it's adopting any type of change, the law of diffusion of innovation it's called a law because this is how human beings as groups adapt to change. There's always a group that leads it, the innovators and inventors, and there's always the last people to accept it and embrace it. Those are the laggards. Uh, Arthur Schopenhauer had a great quote about this. Uh, he said, all truth, and truth, new truth is change. Okay. And he said, all truth passes through three stages. First, it's ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. And third, it's accepted as self-evident. So we borrowed clips from a video that I think Coinbase did, where they go through and they talk about the rejection of automobiles by the people who were in favor of bicycles and horses, and then the rejection of flight by the people who believed that the automobile was all that was needed for change, and then the rejection of manned flight, or I said manned flight, then the rejections of the internet. And so for you, Vivian, at this point, you and everyone else who's watching this, we all lie on some part of that curve of the law of diffusion of innovation. Now, for instance, Peter and Chardonnay and Rakesh and Draco and Nosib and Jamie, they have heard this presentation, they've listened to these ideas, and they are part of the first 2.5%. And they're saying, I get part of this, I understand it, and I want to help be a part of making this happen. Susan, who just joined, or Sam, or Maya, or yourself, Vivian, you will watch what's going on, and you'll try to figure out where you are on that curve, and we will try and help you do that. And that is where we are. And so I'm gonna not keep talking, and I'll ask Draco to pull up the Earth. I'll call it the Earth video, Draco. If you'll pull that up. Anybody here, Peter, Chardonnay, anyone else want to raise their hand and comment before we play that video? Any thoughts?
Not yet.
Okay. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to make it, everything has a time to move, and nothing changes without a catastrophe. And what is happening now is people are becoming at the end of their lines, and they're looking for something, and they're grabbing at anything they could find to correct whatever is happening. And you're right, Joel. Democracies have changed and have been lost, changed, and redefined. And with the tools we have now, that's exactly what we're doing. We're redefining how we're going to use a center of messaging and the premise of democracy, and want to attract anybody who believes in democracy to get online under one umbrella. You can belong to as many groups as you want, but when it comes down to making a change, to go to use this platform to make that change, because numbers count now, and we all know that now. There's not even an argument. And like I said before, and Joel said it before also, that when things are failing, people come together and they change it. And it doesn't look the same, but whenever they change, and I saw this, I don't know how many times in Canada, but I've seen it a lot in the world, where we start off with, we've been through worse than this. And whatever happened, it was bad enough but when we came out of it, it was a little bit better. And I think this, I don't think, I believe this is what we're doing now, is we're changing the how we do it. And when we come out the other end, it will be better. It will be a better world.
Thanks, Peter. I'll tell you, I was working on an article last week with Claude. Claude is an AI that I have more trust in its integrity than I do with the others. Not that I'm some expert on AI, but I uh, I I told Claude, I said, I've reduced this concept down to this really fundamental equation, and it says N plus C equals D. And it takes freedom and democracy and it reduces it to its most simplistic form. And what it means is this: the strength and effectiveness of democracy is a formula of how many people do you have? That's N, numbers, plus how well and how efficiently are they collaborating democratically, free and democratically. So that's N plus C, and that equals D, democracy. So the strength of every democracy in the world, what made the United States of America such a powerful influence on freedom and democracy across the world was we were one of the largest nations in the world. We collaborated really well for about 240 years, reasonably well, not as well as we thought, but we have an overinflated opinion of ourselves, right? But we did do some things incredibly well. We became the economic driver or leader in the world, right? And that was a part of our collaboration as a nation. Our business leaders, our political leaders, our citizens, all of this helped us create this really impressive economy. Okay. And for years and years, that was what led us to have this really strong democracy. And what we're saying at IOD Nations is at the click of our mouse or the tap of our screen, we can create a new online citizen led democratic United States. And our government is corrupted now. Our Supreme Court doesn't function the way it's intended to. Our executive office, the presidency, is foundationally broken. It's violating the Constitution on a daily basis. 30% or more of our citizens readily, they don't just accept this, they embrace it, they champion it, and they will fight for it, right? And many of us who are here in this chat right now, we're besides ourselves, and all over the world they are. What can we do to make things better? And we can click our mouse or tap our screen, we can unite online and we can collaborate. We don't just have to collaborate as the United States of America's citizens. We can do that with you and the citizens of Canada, Peter. Imagine we can actually become more, much stronger and more powerful and influential than we have ever been able to be as citizens simply by uniting online. And everybody doesn't have to be all in and make this a part of their life. They can do it as simply as saying, you know, um, I, Eileen or Cynthia can say, my issue is women's rights. And so I I don't have time to get involved with all this other stuff, but the International Online Democratic Women's Nation, hell yes, count me in. And I want to get daily or weekly updates of what their major issues are. And I can just get alerts on my phone or on my computer. And I can pick a couple of issues that I want to be actively involved in or donate to or be a proponent of. And that can be my role that I'm willing and capable to commit to as an online democratic citizen of the International Online Democratic Women's Nation. And that's how I'm going to function and be a more effective, powerful, and influential democratic woman in this world. And that could be done in as little as, 5 to 15 minutes a week. And that's where we are right now. We think that everything's broken, and a lot of us have given up, and we're saying don't give up. Change, as the military army says, adapt and overcome. Let's make this stuff happen. Draco, can we play that? Jamie, I reached out to the various groups, to 5051 and the No Kings movement and Indivisible. They just don't seem to grasp what we're talking about. I got some traction. Uh, we'll talk about that later. But this is a rudimentary video for everybody that's here who hasn't seen it. And I might stop it once or twice to give a little further explanation. But this will explain the idea of who we are as the citizens of the internet. So go ahead and hit play, Draco. Welcome to iodnations.org, International Online Democratic Nations.org, where we're promoting online citizen-led democracy, very much like Taiwan has had for the last 11 years, which has resulted in increased public approval of their government from 9% to 70%. There are three fundamental premises. One is that if a business no longer requires brick and mortar, then a nation no longer requires land and borders. The second one is we are the internet. We do not access the internet. We grant the internet access to us. Without us, they ain't shit. And the third foundational premise is if you are not actively pro-democracy, if you are not pro-democracy, then you are not pro-democracy. So Bernard Shaw said, you see things and ask why. I dream things and ask why not. This is planet Earth. Humans have existed on planet Earth first as tribes and now as nations. Nations are the highest form of human collaboration that has ever existed. But does a nation require land and borders? In this next slide, you see us, the humans, the world's citizens who are on planet Earth. Currently, we are being used and abused like crops or cattle or swine. And we are being exploited. About 30 years ago, Al Gore invented the internet. And at IOD Nations, we ask you to consider looking at the internet as if it's its own environment or atmosphere, and it completely surrounds planet Earth and all of human existence now. So our world has changed in ways that were never viable or did not exist until Al Gore invented the internet. And now this is what's happening on the internet. We currently have these entities. These are a visual simulation of some of the most powerful and influential entities in the internet, but they are not the internet. They have trained us, in essence, to think that they are the internet. And the arrows that you see going out is this representation that we have. If I were to ask anyone here, do you access the internet? And virtually everyone would say yes. And that's what the arrows demonstrate, is that we are accessing them. And these are bad actors. They are malicious. They are destroying world democracy. And they believe that they've also already obtained dominion over the internet. But here's what they don't realize. We are the commodity that they market. Without us, Facebook can't sell advertising. We think that we're actually accessing Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. But the reality is we're granting them access to us. But if we choose to unite online, as for instance, the IOD US Nation, the IOD Women's Nation, the IOD UK Nation, these are citizen-led unifications. They are separate from our existing traditional governments. These nations, like the IOD Youth Nation and the IOD Art Nation, they can have their own constitution. They can have their own Bill of Rights or Declaration of Independence. They can have their own voting systems with ranked choice voting if they want. They are their own nations. They are their
Go
own
ahead and
entities. But
pause that,
what is
Draco.
amazing about
So at IOD Nations, what we imagine you to do, what we ask you to imagine. So welcome to everybody who's joining us in this process, in this show. IOD Nations promotes the idea of online citizen-led democracy. If a business no longer requires brick and mortar, then a nation no longer requires land and borders. So in this illustration, at the top of the smaller circle, that smaller circle, the bigger circle is the internet. It is this environment. It is this atmosphere that now surrounds planet Earth. Okay. And it's reached the point where it's driving what happens on planet Earth instead of us affecting the internet. It is getting more power and influence every day. And what we contend, you'll see the IOD US Nation, the IOD Women's Nation, the IOD Denmark Nation, and let's say the IOD Youth Nation. Women and the world's youth have historically been left out of positions of power and influence. I think we can all agree on that, just like people of color have, just like climate activists have. We've failed to impose our will and our freedom and democracy upon those who are governing and leading us. So imagine, if you would, that the IOD Art Nation makes a proposal. All the artists, or a large number of artists from all across the world, have united online and they formed their own nation. And Vivian says she can't connect with us directly. Can Draco or Rakesh, can you help her out, sort of figure out what she's looking for? So let's say the IOD Art Nation says, you know what we want to do? We're tired of these big music sharing platforms making money off of our music and yet failing to allow us to really benefit from our art. So we can use AI, we can create our own music sharing platform as the artists of the world, and we would like to ask the International Online Democratic Women's Nation and the International Online Democratic Youth Nation to utilize our music sharing platform. And what we will do is we will allocate the majority of those proceeds to the artists instead of a big corporation, because we believe that's the right thing to do. But we will also contribute a small amount from our art to support the Online Democratic Women's Nation and the Online Democratic Youth Nation, because if we all unite online democratically, it benefits all of us mutually. And the International Online Climate Nation citizens say, hey, we like this idea. We want to be a part of that too. And all of a sudden, the biggest music sharing platform in the world has become the application built and put forward by the International Online Democratic Art Nation. And the democratic citizens of the world are supporting it because we would all like to see the musicians and the artists benefit and promote that together. And so that's the point of this. And the citizens, the Online Democratic US nation citizens, and the Online Democratic Canadian nations that Peter has helped work with, they also say, we think that's a damn cool idea. We're going to promote it and advertise it within our nations. And immediately, what you've done is you've created this massive collaboration that isn't just about artists financially benefiting from their art. It's also benefiting freedom and democracy all across the world and making this inner circle, this environment that is pro democracy, pro freedom and democracy on the internet. You're going to see in a minute now Facebook or YouTube or Spotify, they're going to try and access us, the free and democratic citizens of the world, and our place on the internet. And we're going to say, sorry, you don't get direct access to us on the internet unless you can prove to us that you're pro freedom and democracy. And we then become the most powerful force on in the world because we are the internet. Without us, without our money for them to commoditize us, they ain't shit. So the arrows will promote that and we'll let it continue. Go ahead and hit play, Draco. This is by uniting online and establishing some filters. We realize that we can set up filters that do not grant them direct access to us because we are the internet. Without us, they ain't shit. Okay? When we unite and we establish that every entity that wants unfiltered access to us, whether that's economically, socially, religiously, politically, internationally, if they want access to us, we require that they prove that they are pro-democracy. Otherwise, they get filtered access to us. And at this moment, when we do this, we have completely flipped the script, right? All we have to do is target any one of these entities or any one entity with enough people united online, and then everybody, all of the others, once you down one or once you significantly impact one, all of the others, if you're large enough, if you're united enough, if you're collaborating well enough, they all start coming to us. Then when that happens, we aren't. Go ahead and pause that, Draco. Trying to. So here's the point of this. Every entity that you see up there, so we're talking about the platforms, Facebook, Reddit, Spotify, Pinterest, Snapchat, TikTok. Okay. They're commoditizing us, their value. Facebook's value dramatically decreases if the pro-democracy citizens of the world unite and put up a filter that says, Facebook, you don't get direct access to us unless you're pro-democracy. The minute we are united online and we set that parameter, you need to be pro-democracy, all of these other entities, every business, major business in the world, every country in the world that has an online presence, which is everybody, the pro-freedom and democracy citizens of the world are the largest group that exists in the world, right? Women make up 50%, roughly, men make up 49%. I'll guarantee you more than 51% of the people in the world are pro-freedom and democracy because they recognize what comes with that. So we become the most powerful and influential force on the world. And once you flip one of these platforms that operate within the internet, the others are going to be coming to us and saying, what do we have to do in order to get direct access to you? Well, Facebook, what you need to do is you need to put together your corporate mission statement that announces that you're pro-freedom and democracy. You need to get the endorsement of at least 65% of your employees demonstrating that you are pro-freedom and democracy. And for instance, IOD Nations, we can't run an ad with Facebook that uses the words freedom or democracy because they forbid it or they downgrade it. Well, sorry, Facebook, that's the end of that. As a matter of fact, when IOD Nations or someone else wants to run a pro freedom and democracy ad, you're going to change your damn algorithm so we go to the top of the list. And if you don't, we're not going to give you direct access. We are the internet. We flip the script. And once you do it to one of them, instead of us trying to force and compel them to do it, we're the largest contingent of people in the world. They will come running to us if we unite and establish these filters. Go ahead and hit play, Draco. Figure out how to protect ourselves from them. They're in a feed like this trying to figure out what they need to do to get access to us so that their business models stay viable. And if they don't adapt, if they don't demonstrate that they're pro-freedom and democracy, we are the internet. Without us, you ain't shit. And that's when we flip them off and we let them know that the whole dynamics of what's going on in the world have just shifted. And everything, economically, socially, militarily, politically, it's all now put into the hands and largely controlled by the pro-democracy citizens of the world who have united online. Let's go to the next part, Draco. I want to show the groups of people if we could. We use these as samples of different groups of people. You know, you could put your issue with adherence to the U.S. Constitution, and you could put that over and replace Ukraine with that. Okay, and so that could be groups that are really worried about the US. Let's pause that there. So currently, we're all here as the individuals you see at the bottom of this screen. And so, for instance, in Canada, there's the pro-climate citizens, there's the tourism groups, there's the industries. These groups are all reaching out to us, trying to get us as individuals to support them. For women, that might be Now, it might be Planned Parenthood. These groups are the ones who you find, it could be politicians who are representing women. They're asking you for money. They're asking you to support them. The same thing with BIPOCs or unions or with Ukraine, right? They're all targeting us as individuals. And it's an insanely ineffective and inefficient methodology given what the internet provides. Draco, can you fast forward that to the next image? In this next image, what you're going to see is how Uniting Online flips that script. So now what you see is what we are championing and proposing, and why we're asking you to simply go to our website, iodnations.org, and you can do the most basic thing, which is follow us. You can subscribe on Substack, or you can click on our website that you'd like to become a citizen. Citizen means you just share an email. Okay. What flips here, what we're all missing as pro-democracy citizens, is that we don't need to do everything individually first. The power and influence that we want is all available simply by tapping our screen or clicking our mouse. And once we're united, now, like you saw in that previous image, the women of the world unite online as the IOD Women's Nation. And now the group Now and Planned Parenthood and these other women's groups, they're all working together and collaborating under the umbrella of this online women's nation. And they're coming to all of us at once, because when we united, we became the most powerful and influential force for women and for democracy in the world. And they come forward and say, our group, our IOD Women's Nation, is functioning like the Taiwan online citizen-led nation. And we have our own Constitution and Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence as the women of the world. Okay. And we've decided that we would like to ask all of the pro-democracy citizens of the world to support us in this particular objective. We put it forth as a proposal within our nation. We got a 66% vote of support for this proposal. We're going to implement this. Can we get other groups of you to support us? So that could be the Women's Nation, the Youth Nation, the BIPOC Nation, right? And imagine under the BIPOC Nation, you can have the IOD African American Nation, okay? And under the IOD Women's Nation, you could have the Women's People of Color Nation or the Women's Black Nation. And the citizens of both of those get to collaborate. You've now made women of color their own powerful and influential entity that crosses. Many of them may be young people. Many of them may be from Canada, or they may be Indigenous women from Canada. And they now get to collaborate in all of these different ways and get the whole world of pro-freedom and democracy citizens working with them. And the point of all of this is this simple. The most power and influence that we get is not these individual outreaches and support that we all keep doing. All that needs to happen is to get the pro-freedom and democracy citizens of the world to unite in one place or a couple of places online. All these influencers, all these groups will come to us. They will seek us. That's what IOD Nations promotes. And that's why we're asking you to consider sharing us, restacking us on Substack, and supporting us. And we believe that some of you will become some of the leaders that we've been waiting for. That's our position. Draco, can you pull up the video of Audrey Tang? So for those of you who have been here for the majority of this presentation, we talked earlier about Taiwan and what is going on there, how Taiwan has 50% of their citizens already uniting online. And so we're going to play some brief clips of her talking about how far they have evolved this online democracy. And what you're going to realize is that if and when the citizens of the United States choose to unite online democratically, all of this infrastructure is out there and available. And Fred just joined and asked, uniting against what? Fred, we're really uniting for something. We are uniting for freedom and democracy and not primarily against. We're uniting to put the power and influence into the hands of the pro-democracy citizens of the world. So, Draco, go ahead and hit play if you would.
And if you decimate the trust in democratic processes and let people fight against each other about the outcome of election, that is one of the most sure way to decimate people's trust in democratic institutions.
So in this clip, we see Audrey talking about how Taiwan and Taiwan and the citizens of Taiwan are working together to improve and maintain the belief in their voting system. We're specifically talking about the credibility of democratic voting. If any complaints came out about the voting process, they asked all three parties to submit their videos of that counting process at that location.
Actually, regardless of which party they support, there's no such rigging going on. And all the three party leaders came out and said, yeah, there's no such rigging going on. So again, by anticipating what attack is going on and letting people know that these attacks are coming, it inoculates their minds against such polarization.
What this does when this happens a couple of times is it inoculates the citizens who are voting from getting caught up in the propaganda and the lies, right? In Taiwan, they call it pre-bunking. They debunk these ideas ahead of time by putting in a system and a strategy and tactics that show that the voting system is working. And so the citizens are inoculated. They know that some of this bad shit's going on, and they don't even pay attention to it. Or if they do, as we're going to show you, they have a place to go and find out whether what's being said is true or has any validity.
If you were digital minister for the United States today, what one or two strategies would you deploy right now?
Yeah, so again, one of the sure things is pre-bunking, and the other thing is like rapid response to the trending rumors.
I can now kind of recognize how these propagandists and liars function and what they're trying to do to hurt democracy.
In Taiwan, we have a collaborative fact-checking network built by the civil society called CoFacts. And anyone can just long press any rumor that they receive and report that into a shared dashboard. And so we can very easily see what are trending right now, what kind of rumors and mis and disinformation are trending.
And so here with this application called CoFacts, what Taiwan has done is they've kind of combined from the debunking where you can find out what's not true. They have CoFacts in which the system is allowing the citizens to participate in putting in information, sharing some of the stuff that's out there, and they put it into CoFacts, and CoFacts has an AI that is already set up. They bring it in, they focus on what's true and what's not true and what are the trends in society. So not only does CoFacts give a way for people to help contribute to making sure that the truth is known,
and now the CoFacts community works with language models with AI so that AI is able then to compare a incoming trending rumor with all the debunk and pre-bunk rumors before and offer this kind of first take that can then inform the citizenry.
Here, Audrey explains exactly what I was just talking about, how the two systems work together and how they use AI as an efficient and accurate and unbiased way to get to the root of those things for the citizens.
This kind of debunk bot is also available in the US. So I would advise that people try it out at debunkbot.com.
Debunkbot.com.
Imagine in the United States, I mean, especially in the United States, because we are currently subject to propaganda, misinformation, and lies in the history of our country. So right now, we as a nation of pro-democracy citizens, we could unite online democratically. Imagine if we had 1 million US citizens who began using the debunk bot. It would be a system where even the citizens who don't agree with the answers, they could actually come in and participate. And if they don't participate, that's up to them, because the citizens of the United States who are committed to making sure that there's a place to go where the citizens are ensuring that truth and accuracy and fact, we don't have to wait for other people to give us permission to do that, right? We are free, democratic, and self-determinate citizens in the United States of America. And what Audrey is doing and Taiwan and Taiwan are doing is they're literally showing us how this is already being done. But they actually have a functional government that has a way to deal with propaganda and lies and misinformation that is led by the citizens. The citizens are the ones who made this happen because they united online to put all of this in place. And don't we all want a more truthful, factual, honest way of getting information that we can depend on? And at IOD Nations, what we're telling you is it's right here. It's right now. If we unite online, if we do that, if enough of us do that, we start online citizen-led democracy in our country. So imagine you're the citizens of Iran and the citizens of the United States of America, okay? Let's take what Taiwan is doing on a national level And now let's turn it towards international, which is where all the big conflicts happen, right? And they can impose their will upon this conflict in ways that were never possible before. And it can all be primarily led by the pro-democracy citizens. You literally have a new way for the citizens to protect and defend and try to prevent war. It just changes the dynamics of everything, doesn't it? And that is how IOD Nations recommends and urges that we unite online as pro-democracy citizens and build the next great democracies. Thanks, Draco. We're going to come in and open this up. I think we had another anybody who would like to come in and participate in the discussion. We invite you. We would love to talk to some of you about this and answer some questions. I'm going to read a section from an article that we're about to publish. The guys will share a link with the Substack chat that can bring you into our Zoom chat if you would like to participate. But this is, I had heard of John Locke, and I knew of Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, but this is a part of a discussion that I had with the AI named Claude, and this is what Claude and I came up with as another way of explaining this. And it says, John Locke gave the modern world its democratic foundation. Governments derive their legitimacy solely from the consent of the government, of the governed, not from God, not from hereditary right, but from the people. So that was Locke's foundational position and Locke and what Locke wrote and championed was one of the foundations that the founding fathers of the United States of America used as the outline to create our US democracy. And every democracy in the world has done that. And so think about that. Governments derive their legitimacy solely from the consent of the governed, not from God, not from hereditary right, but from the people. Now, Jean-Jacques Rousseau came in and elaborated on this. And this is a really, really cool part about what we're talking about. Rousseau sharpened that blade a generation later. And he said, consent every few years, he argued, was not real consent. Genuine democracy required ongoing participation. Citizens not merely choosing their governors periodically, but governing continuously. The people weren't just the source of legitimacy, they were the government. So if you listened as we were talking about what Audrey and Taiwan are doing over and over and over again, these platforms, the debunking, and I forget the name of the other one, they were specifically allowing and facilitating citizen-led government. Okay, exactly what Rousseau was talking about. The reason that we're all here, if you're in the United States and you're older, like Chardonnay and I are, and I'm not quite sure how old Jamie is, but I'm sure she's old enough and understands this. The reason we're here is because throughout our whole education as young people, we were taught that our responsibility in our democracy was to vote. Okay? You vote. That's what a good democratic citizen does. And that's how you have a viable democracy. Well, how's it worked out? Voting has not been enough. And Rousseau saw this, and listen to this. Then Rousseau admitted what haunted him. It was impossible. Citizens couldn't continuously govern themselves at scale. They had jobs, farms, families, distances between them that couldn't be crossed in time to make things matter. Representative democracy, periodic elections, delegated authority was the practical compromise, not the ideal. It was the compromise. And he wrote in 1762 the infrastructure that, and that's what he wrote. And what this article says is this: that infrastructure, okay, that inability to work and collaborate together, that wasn't happening because of jobs, because of farms, because of families, and all of the time involved. Online citizen-led democracy now facilitates that. The exact reason that Socrates proposed that democracy was doomed to fail, the exact reason that Rousseau admitted it was only really viable on a local level, the internet has changed that. So William or Ghislaine or Barbara, we can now unite online. Okay, we don't face those boundaries. A nation, a democracy no longer requires land and borders. We can cross those at the click of a mouse, right? We live in this era where the biggest weakness of freedom and democracy has now been solved. And as we're sitting here thinking of all of the horrible things that are happening and how ineffective things are and why we're so frustrated, what we at IOD Nations are saying is join us, unite online, and watch what happens. Because Amazon, they built their online business by getting large numbers of people to use them. We're the large numbers of people. We're the commodity that makes Amazon viable, or Facebook viable, or Spotify viable. And all we have to do is click our mouse and unite together. And now they all have to come running to us. We become the most powerful and influential force in the world. The women of the world can unite online and they can say, hey guys, you now have to deal with us because we are powerful, we are influential, and you want our damn money, and we're not giving it to you unless you work with us to ensure our freedoms and our rights. And that's what IOD Nations is about. And that's why we're here. And that's why you should share us. You should restack our articles. You should consider becoming a citizen and supporting us. Because when you do it, you are supporting, promoting, and championing citizen-led democracy, the only form of government other than authoritarianism. There are no other options. That's the best I've got, unless you want to see we'll lighten this up a little bit for you right now. So we're gonna invite people to come in and talk with us and ask us questions. We're going to uh, we're we're gonna play a video that Draco and I made that has to do with the Matrix movie, and this was one of the things that hooked Peter to volunteer with us. So, Draco, play the Matrix video, and let's Peter, go ahead before he plays it. What do you got to say? And anyone here who wants to talk, come on in.
I know that the word, because we were talking before, like with with Chardonnay about what's the meaning of love, and everybody has their own concepts of what's the meaning of love. So we can stay here and say, we're going to share the love, we're going to share the joy, and those are all ambiguous words that mean something different to everybody, but we know the concept. But in a democracy, we tend to veer off and say, well, what's your definition of democracy? What's your definition? There's not everybody's definition of democracy. There are certain principles, and I suggest everybody read those principles, and if you agree with those principles, that's what we're all about. And the last one I can say, we can print them. They're from the UN, the fundamental principles of democracy, and we become all more aware of what we are here for. And the principles don't change. And one of them is the citizen participation, like you said, Joel. We need people with the understanding of what is democracy and what does it mean to me and how much the democracy means to me, and I want to follow these principles. And one of them, like you said, democracy demands citizen participation, involvement. Become aware of what's going on. Becoming aware, educated of what's going on in the world, what's going on in your backyard. And imagine, like what Joel, like the concept is so simple, but so difficult to to express. Imagine the empowerment I get if I had a billion people behind me. I make a decision, I make a request, and I am empowered now because I have a billion people behind me thinking the same thing. Now, can I make a difference with a billion people? I think so. I think I can get somebody's attention, at least, and then it'll open a door to a conversation. But that's the premise of this of democracy is coming together as a group and making a change for the good. Well, we always intend to make it for the good, but and negotiate, compromise, and we're going to get close. With that kind of format and platform, we'll be able to make big changes, and for the better of humanity. That's my concept, and I hope you get the same concept that the Matrix, like you said, Joel. I had to watch The Matrix a couple hundred times before I really got it. The concept, and could this be is this possible? At first, I said, "This is not possible." But when I started looking at it, maybe the 50th. Sorry about that, guys. You can. When you get that, when I got it, it's the same thing as this as international online democratic citizens online. It just hit me. So I hope everybody reads the principles of democracy, and that's what we follow. That's my ending line. Carry on.
I'll tell you something. In this conversation that I had with Claude, I expressed my frustration. I said, it's so simple, Peter, and you and I have discussed this, and Draco, and I know Chardonnay's been in it, and I know that Rakesh has been in it. It's like, this is so simple. Democracy is simply how many people do you have, how well do they collaborate, and that determines how strong your democracy is. And I asked Claude this. I said, what is going on? Why is it so hard for people to grasp this concept? And in essence, Claude said, it's so simple, right? It on the one hand, it's outside the box, right? It's not the way people's thinking patterns are oriented. And then on the other hand, it's so simple that so many people fail to grasp how powerful it is, right? And it, it it was just and it still is. I do remain confounded um, at what it's going to take. And as we've discussed, we need an influencer. We need or a couple of influencers or some politicians. And I'll give you this premise that I had. I don't know how many people here are familiar with ranked choice voting. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know many countries that have it, if any. I know once, to what I know, one state has it. I forget which state. It's one of the northeastern states. But in California, we just had an election, and a gentleman named Becerra looks like he's going to run against a conservative who is, in essence, running against freedom and democracy in the United States. And Becerra won this election because um, Katie Porter and some other Democrats took votes from Tom Steyer, and Becerra is being heavily funded by Chevron and the oil industry, which is really not in the best interests of the citizens of California, the citizens of the United States, or the citizens of the world. Now, we could and we need to develop ranked choice voting. And what that would have meant was, if I really thought Katie Porter was the best candidate for governor of California, I could have voted for her without throwing my vote away. Because what would happen is, if Katie Porter was not ranked as my highest choice, or was ranked as my highest choice but didn't make it through the primary, ranked choice says my vote would then have gone to my second choice. And my second choice would have been Tom Steyer. And so all of these people who got divided, these pro-democracy Democratic citizens of California, our votes got split, and we now have a corporate controlled, manipulated, and influenced Democrat as our only choice for governor in the state of California. Now, if the women of California had been united online and they could have their own online Democratic California nation with everybody in California, we could compel the California government to vote in ranked choice voting. The citizens of California who unite online could do that as a part of their government, and they could then use their power and influence to make that happen in the state. And we would have an election process that the wealthy and powerful can't exert so much control over. And that is just one indicator of how pro-democracy citizens uniting online can influence what's going on. And we're going to play a fun little video for you, but to the 120 people who are here, I can virtually guarantee you that you have not been in another Substack, even if it has 100 times as many people as we have here. You've not been in another one that proposes an idea that can work for freedom and democracy in a way that matches, like Peter said, the UN definition of what freedom and democracy is, and the definition that John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau so long ago proposed, and that the founders of the United States of America used when our democracy was created. And we can do it at the tap of a screen and the click of a mouse, which no other generation has had available to them. And what a shame it would be if we allowed ourselves to get distracted from taking advantage of that. That honestly haunts me. And it's why I'm going to be here working on this until I can get powerful people in the United States and in the world to talk about this. So, Draco, go ahead and let's put a smile on people's faces. As he's bringing up that video, Writing with Water said it puts things back into the right relationship where the tech world is at the service of the people. And that's exactly right. And I had that conversation with Claude, that we can command that the AIs of the world function in a pro-democracy manner. So go ahead and hit play, Draco, and let's put a smile on people's faces who like a little humor.
This is our construct. A planet of continents, of land and borders. At least, that's what previous generations believe. This is our real construct. The trad world is now subservient to our virtual world. Welcome to the real world, Neo. A brave new international online democratic world. Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Elon is about to go bye-bye.
So, we do not access the internet. We filter their access to us. We are the internet. Holy shit, we can save Zelensky and Ukraine.
When the world's youth and others unite online, freedom, democracy, and the world's pro-democracy citizens will now rule the world. All that must occur is for people to send an email to NATO. Those emails comprise their online citizenship.
Could they save world democracy?
Once united online, by the millions, we are the cure.
So, international online democracy is the new construct.
If they build it, I will come.
So you're here to save the world. No one has ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
Go ahead and stop that, Draco. So I just see a name that jumped into our live chat in Substack. That's Susan Rice. How cool would that be if that was the Susan Rice? And we could all have that discussion with her. Any chance that's you, Susan? You want to come into our link on Zoom? And you don't have to be that Susan Rice. We would welcome any Susan Rice or anyone else who's here that would like to come in and chat with us in Zoom before we end today's show. We hope you've enjoyed it. I've got to tell you, when I learned last week the real foundational ideals that we were talking about related to John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and how online citizen-led democracy was the first time in history that we could adapt freedom and democracy to the biggest weaknesses that they saw with it, and that Socrates saw. I realized that a long time ago. What an eye-opener that is, that we have this ability at our fingertips. So if nobody else is going to join us, I will open this up to the team. Jamie, first I'll go to Jamie. Jamie, what'd you think of today's show? It's a little bit different. I think our videos have been revised and are a little bit more cohesive. Anything surprise you or inspire you today, or anyone else from the team have anything to say before we end today's show?
Well, I mean, I made a comment in the in the chat that there are always a lot of great ideas and what we want to achieve here in America. I think we face some cultural problems. America is very different than Taiwan, and they did implement this model 10 years ago. So we're going to have, I think this is why I said maybe, connecting with the No Kings movement, and connecting people offline as well as online to try to save democracy, because we've got a lot of challenges, and now we've got them on a global level, and a lot of our processes and how we do things are all kind of tied into AI now. And when the public loses trust in AI, they don't want to connect on the internet. There's a lot of fringe theories and things out there, and a lot of misinformation. So I think adoption is going to be critical. So I'm interested to hear some different ideas on how we could reach a mass consensus for this kind of model, outside of just emails and the traditional channels that are controlled by the elite.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's up to us. That's up to us as citizens, right? The that is the I think that's the crux and the hardest thing to overcome, is that we've been conditioned to operate upon this premise of how these individual groups do this, how they unite and bring more people in to work with them. So if it's indivisible, if it's 50-51, if it's the NAACP, um, if it's the state of Texas or the state of California, right? We've been operating under this premise that goes back to what Rousseau indicated. It's we're conditioned to think that it happens in these small groups because that's the way it's functioned best. That's the way it's worked in the past. The ability to bridge all of that hasn't been there. And so I certainly understand what you're saying. What I'm saying, and what I believe the IOD Nations movement stands for, is to flip that script. It's the yin yang. And the thing is if you there's a book that Malcolm Gladwell wrote. It's called The Tipping Point, and it's almost a mirror of the law of diffusion of innovation. And in the beginning of Gladwell's book, the first concept that he uses is hush puppies. And when hush puppy shoes, which I wore as a kid, I loved my hush puppy shoes, and they were the coolest things happening. And when a certain influencer and a certain number of people and somebody got on TV on a talk show or whatever wearing hush puppies, and hush puppies became, pardon my expression, but they became the shit, and everybody started wearing hush puppies. And we can reverse that. We're at this position where it doesn't have to work that way anymore. If a large number of people unite online, then they can split into their groups and collaborate with each other, and not to get worried about what each individual group is going to do, but rather, I call it keeping the eye on the prize. The eye on the prize is to get a large enough contingent of people united online, and that will facilitate the tipping point. So uh, I'm going to, Chardonnay had her hand up. Jamie, I'll certainly want to invite you to participate in that. And I thought we had someone here for a minute who was new, who looks like they left or whatever. Chardonnay, I don't know if I should. Jamie, I'll go to Chardonnay first, and Jamie, I'll come back and see what you thought of that response. Go ahead, Chardonnay.
Basically, because I wanted to go to Jamie and everyone else too, is Jamie, that was a great question. But I would like to turn it back to you in that, since it was a great question and you thought of it, what are your answers for it? What are your ideas for it? And anybody else who has any ideas for it, I would like to hear them because that's how we work. um, uh, we want to know, we want your input because we go over these questions. We come up with these questions. I know for me, I come up with these questions at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm jotting them down and things, and then we're throwing them out and doing all these things together. So a lot of these kind of questions we've kind of already run through between us. So it's great for us to hear your answers. So anything you would like to share, there it's like people say there are no silly questions. For us, there are no silly answers. So we are open to whatever ideas you guys have for us. So Jamie, what do you think? How else
Well,
can we share it? What can we do?
well, I'm not sure because we all, with the advent of social media and multiple channels for that, we all have effectively, kind of connected together online, and nothing good has come of it. If this model, and I'm just being hypothetical here,
Sure,
if an
yes, please.
online
Yep.
model of uniting
Hmm.
uh works, why didn't it work with social media?
In
It's
my
a different,
estimation, the
That
reason it
it's a
was, and
whole
I think,
different animal. This is a whole different animal, Jamie. We're not trying to replicate anything from social media. It's not it's this is the platform that we're putting together with Joel's conception of this, and that's from my understanding, is where you could go along with 3, 4 other billion people and make a stand. It's not about talking, oh, this is happening to me. This is, look what's going on in the world, the whole thing. These are specific. I suggest you really look at. There's a couple of videos actually from Audrey that everybody here who's interested should look at those videos, and because she can explain it like no other person, and how it worked for them. And again, yes, Jamie, you're right. There's different cultures. We are different people, but in the long run, we all are striving for the same thing. We all want a fair, just society. If you belong to a democratic society, that's what we all strive for, a fair and just society. That with this platform, we can create a huge amount of people in that society that could make those changes. And yes, we've become a very skeptical human race. We're all skeptical. Is this guy going to rip me off? Why is Joel doing this? Why are you here, Rakesh? We all have hidden agendas. No, it's not about that. It's about just a group of people that, and you're talking about the tipping point, Joel, that I think we are at that point right now. Not just America, not just Canada, the world is at a tipping point right now that we see what's going on because of social media. And
Yeah.
that's the good thing. That's the good thing that came out of it. We are more
Well,
aware of what's going on in the world.
that's kind of my point, that there's a lot of organized groups and organizations on social media and things like that. And again, like the No Kings movement, they organized, for millions and millions of people to, 8 million people to protest in the streets. But one of the things that I think, from what I have read and researched about the V Taiwan model, is that their government actually asked the people to hack in and help restructure the government. I don't think we're going to have that luxury in America.
No, we're not asking. We're not going to ask. We're going to just do it. We're not.
That's right. We're not
about
waiting. We're
asking
not waiting
anybody.
for the ask.
Let me
Yeah.
and Jamie, I want to address something, because you said something I think that is you asked a question in a different way than we have presented things, which is so accurate. If I'll paraphrase it, but I'll kind of address it. You said something to the effect of, we're all already united online, right? We're already there, in essence, together in this online internet environment or atmosphere. Why hasn't it happened yet? And here's what I would say to you. There's several reasons, but one of the primary reasons, I'm going to read this to you. It'll take a moment, but I think this will be a really cool way of explaining it. So hang on, it's loading on my phone. This is a part of the article. And in this article, what I talk about is, if you saw the video about Earth, it has that analogy where we're talking about the internet as an atmosphere or an environment. I don't know why this is taking so long to load. And in this article, we use another metaphor. And the metaphor is exactly what your question addressed. And it's this: the powerful entities, so like the Facebook and the TikTok is owned by China, and you can go through and see that the US government tried to prevent it, or they sold it, but we don't even know who paid for it. And what we do know is Trump got something like $10 billion out of it. Okay. These powerful, wealthy, influential entities in this online environment, I'm going to close this out and see if it'll open again. Here we go. They have created an architecture that is specifically designed to prevent us from uniting. And when you combine that, if you go back and I forget which one it is, I think you can do Brave New World Revisited, or maybe it was, I forget, Animal Farm or one of the others. There's some very specific comments that are made that one of the downfalls of humanity and free and democratic society would be sports, gambling, and alcohol. I kind of forget who said all of that, but we are distracted. So this combination of those distractions that are being sold to us and keeping us from paying attention to what's happening in our world, along with trying to figure out how to live, the article poses it like this, and it's called The Pipes and the Water. Here's the most important thing to understand about the internet, and almost nobody has said it clearly. We've been told for 30 years that the internet is a set of platforms, that Facebook is a place people go, that YouTube is a service people use, that Google is a tool people search, that the companies behind these platforms are the internet, its owners, its architects, its governors. This is a lie. Maybe not a malicious one necessarily, but a lie nonetheless. We do not access the internet. We are the internet. Every conversation, every piece of content, every search result, every connection, every transaction, every idea that has ever traveled across a network, it's generated by human beings, by citizens, by us. Facebook without its users is a server farm hanging in the dark. YouTube without its creators and viewers is empty bandwidth. Google without human generated content to index is an engine with nothing to search. Twitter without people generating its conversations is one man talking to himself. The water created the value. The pipes claimed ownership of it. What the water actually is. Consider the ocean. Every drop connected to every other drop across every border, every language, every culture on Earth. The Atlantic touches the Pacific. The Pacific touches the Indian Ocean. There are no walls beneath the surface. Only the appearance of separation imposed by the continents that rise between them. The water was never divided. It was only interrupted. The water is us on the internet. Approximately 5.4 billion people out of the 8 billion on Earth who are already connected to the internet. This is not a niche. This is not a privileged minority. This is the majority of humanity already sharing the same digital ocean, already present in the same connected space, and that number grows every single day. These 5.4 billion people are already unified in the only way that has ultimately ever mattered: shared presence in our common world. They generate its value. They create its meaning. They are collectively and irrefutably the internet itself. The forces that benefit from democratic fragmentation have understood this perfectly. Authoritarian governments, corporate interests, algorithmic platforms, engineered for outrage over solidarity. They don't need to defeat democracy directly. Sun Tzu understood that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Keep the water divided into separate drops. Keep each drop convinced it is alone powerful and too small to matter. Keep it scrolling, arguing, exhausted, and certain that nothing it does individually changes anything. The water has never organized itself. IOD Nations is the current, not a new platform competing for the water's attention, not another pipe claiming to deserve its flow. A coordinated layer, the first serious attempt in human history to let the water recognize itself as an ocean and move with the full, unhurried, unstoppable weight of what it has always been. And to what Peter said, tides don't petition. They don't protest and they don't go home. They don't ask permission. They simply and continuously move. And what we're saying is, for the first time in human history, the tide of freedom and democracy can move at the click of a mouse or the tap of a screen. And these entities and these algorithms and the busyness of our life and the distractions, the internet, the reason we haven't organized is because it is specifically constructed and organized by wealthy, powerful, influential entities, either purposely or unpurposely, to prevent us from doing that. And we have to accept the our ability to respond by being self-determinate and choosing to do it a different way. And I really hope that didn't come across as a lecture or a way um, to discount what you were saying. And it's probably one of the biggest challenges I have is how can we communicate this as aspirational and open arms and moving forward and not preachy in that way?
No, not at all. I mean, and I hear you. And, everybody's here to share ideas to see how you can drive something like this forward. I know when I worked, in technology and with, my husband worked for Department of Defense and startups and things like that. One of the things that we had to do to help, for example, in the group that we worked with to try to help musicians get better traction and drive their own income through their own platforms rather than relying on the ones that take, the lion's share of their money, was to help them increase what's called their SEO score with search engine optimization through Google ads and the Facebook ads. It's on the online world gaining adoption and I don't know how this fits with this model, but I'm trying to help and understand, is how could you raise the SEO score of online democracy?
what a
you know
it yeah, honestly, it is. This is, what's so funny about you saying that, Jamie, is as a team we've had this conversation, and I call us the gang that can't shoot straight. The most hilarious irony of all of this is in the overall scheme of things, we are quite inept in the technology world as a group attempting to convince the world that technology is going to save freedom and democracy, right? And so it's so in line with our struggles and our challenges is we're trying to figure this crap out as we're going along, and we are like the gang that couldn't shoot straight trying to do it. And
No, the
that
best
we're
was yesterday. The best was yesterday when you said we are the gang that couldn't click straight. And that
oh
was the
yes,
best. That was the
yeah.
best.
And so that's the irony of it, Jamie. And that's kind of, thank you so much, Chardonnay, because that was a good that was a good line. And so I'll tell you what we're planning on doing, Jamie. We're here, we've got 135 people in Substack. We're going to continue. We went from 3 Substack lives to 2. Draco and I are going to work on the YouTube channel, and I've done some research, and I've come to realize I saw a really good influencer on YouTube who admitted that they said once their determination from an online presence, an online recognition, and a viability, they said that they had now determined that one YouTube subscriber, they said they saw that as the equivalent of 1,000 followers or subscribers on other social media platforms. And so we're going to try and capitalize on that. And so this is why Peter and Chardonnay have stepped up, and they're going to kind of take the email and some of the social media stuff and work with Rakesh and Draco on that. And Draco and there's a lot of other wheels moving here. We're going to try and move to the other side of that and do it with YouTube and see if we can make that more viable and if we might get more traction there. So that's one of the aspects of our altering approach now with how do you achieve that. I also think that artists, and I would love to talk to you about this, I think that artists are probably one of the prime communities that we should be talking to. I I imagine there's a lot of musicians, and I think we touched on this before in a previous discussion. I think there's a lot of musicians and artists that if they recognize this opportunity and the way to monetize it, that they might be a leading group who would adopt this. I initially thought it was going to be young people and women, and we've really struggled to get traction there. And so I'm going to be talking to Peter and Chardonnay about targeting musicians and artists more. I think they are a bit more innovative and outside the box thinking. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, Bono and The Edge just met with Claudia Scheinbaum to talk about
Did they
all the major
really?
achievements. Yes, all the major achievements that they've been doing. And I think it speaks volumes that they tried to organize a Freedom Day or whatever it's called concert, and all the artists dropped out because they recognized that there was too much politics. And I think maybe one of the words that's being used here that might be getting pushback, ironically, is the word democracy, because we're so polarized and we're so divided and so many people are just over the online thing. It's it's they feel controlled by it. I know a lot of the older people that I talk to they don't use social media and they don't want an email account. They don't even want a cell phone, but they have to have one to log into their damn bank.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenges here culturally, societally, financially, but like it or not, we are all, what is it, something like 82% of the Fortune 500 companies are using AI. Well, AI is, I always said use IA, not AI, because the way they're using AI is for clickbait, and Meta got what 55 billion in revenue in Q1 from AI ads. So there's a lot stacked against an online movement because the online movement has kind of burned everybody out. So that's why I think a two-part approach might be easier to reach people. The billboard.
When you say when you say a two-part, are you referring to the away from the internet approach, like more of a traditional uniting, like the No Kings and that kind of thing?
Yes. Look at the traction that
Yeah.
the No Kings movement that brought businesses to their knees. And they
Yeah,
did
I
it
mean,
by boycotting the internet, not not uniting on it.
yeah, yeah, but I would, I agree with you, but I would say I actually stood up at our local No Kings, not the last one, but the one before, and I urged them to actually give us something to do. In other words, the marches that are there, there's a lot of talk about protest and singing songs and saying chants and waving signs and all those things, but I've been to every one of them and I've walked away from every one of them disappointed that we didn't accomplish more. And I don't, my sister went to the the women's march, which I think was at the time the biggest protest in U.S. history and maybe in the world, in Washington, D.C. The first time, I think that was the first time Trump got elected. And yet, and again, I'm really not trying to push back on you. I'm just trying to offer some insights there and hopefully develop some better ideas through doing this. Nothing really has come out of those. And so I think there is some magic between the two, right? To link the two with how can we combine the online with the boots on the ground type of stuff and get them to work together functionally. And I think it comes partially down to the law of diffusion of innovation. We're talking about building this big group, but the reality is, to some extent, I think I've come to believe that we really should be finding a better way to target these specific groups who are more inclined, the more innovative, the more leading edge, the bit more rebellious, and maybe and probably the more tech savvy. Because I can tell you, I've talked to several, I've gone to 50, I've talked to people within 5051. I've talked to people within Indivisible. I've emailed their national, state, regional, and local offices trying to get them to engage in discussion about this. And they're just not interested. The best I got was when I stood up in front of, I don't know what it was. I think it was about 5,000 people in San Luis Obispo. And I interrupted their presentation and I said, when will you actually ask us to do something? We're here. We would like to participate in an activity that will accomplish something. Now, what they did do because of that was, at this next No Kings March, they invited the NAACP, the climate activists, and they invited a bunch of these other groups to set up a booth and a tent at the last No Kings March. So it did have that effect, me standing up and speaking out. But that, I don't believe that that's changed anything. And I think that each of those groups was operating individually to try and champion their cause and get a few more people to join their organization and a few more people to contribute and fund them, which are all worthy. But I don't see where any of them have made a change. And in fact, I see us still going down the path
Yeah.
of democracy shrinking.
Yeah, circling the drain. I think that in part might be because they have their own financial interests. And part of the problem with
Yes.
where we're at is we're a hyper-capitalist society and everything is tied into the damn money. So I think in one of the emails or maybe a conversation with Jill, I said we need to be, because the scientists and the strategists are in full panic mode right now. I think the people that possibly we need to be talking to are the thinkers, the scientists, the people at the
Yep.
university level. Get the thinkers involved, not anybody who has hands-on money, people who have hands-on, the real proven sociological theories that are behind what you're trying to do. Because
I did.
Nobody did a social impact study on this shit show, did they? Now we have to reverse it.
No, I mean, yeah, I did several email campaigns to, I believe it was 200 political science professors at 4 universities in California. Over it was not a well executed, it was a moderately well executed email campaign. I could not get one political science professor, even though I got about I think at one initially, I think I got about an 70 or 80% open rate on my email. And yet not one engagement. And
Yeah.
I think I dropped the ball there, Jamie, because I believe I should have gone there in person and like spoken to students. And this is just not my wheelhouse.
Yes.
It wasn't until the
So
first of this year that I decided to really put my face on it. And I really cringed at that. So I think that's part of what you're talking about and my weakness in that area that helped contribute to it not being successful.
I had an interesting conversation with a contractor friend of mine he has a master's or studied both biological science and political science at the same time, and realized, that it was a huge conflict of interest because political science is basically, uh, we kind of screw people over and kill them in the name of political power, and we're killing the planet while doing it. And that is kind of the crux and the reality of our times, is that, all of this stuff with AI and the mining of the minerals, for the batteries and things like that, it destroys the planet and takes all the water to do it. So we're in, not only a global financial crisis, but what the way we've done things is causing an ecological catastrophe as well. Like, there was Elon was doing illegal mining in the DRC
Oh yeah.
with children for the batteries of a Tesla, who he was claiming saved the planet. It doesn't save the planet, it destroys the planet. And this, I studied sociology where, in Sociology 101, they basically show us how technology, especially when it's used by our adversaries and bots and it gets to this level, destroys humanity. So
Well,
there's a lot of
it
things that can
it
be
was interesting.
manipulated
Yeah.
online. And
Yep.
I think that I
But
know that a lot of
we
people are
can
craving a
change that.
human connection, a
Yeah.
human connection.
I one one of my comments to the professors was the the job, the title, political scientist. I said, have yours, can you give me an example of political science experiments that you and your students are conducting? And wouldn't an experiment of getting a group of your students or a group of citizens in within a community or within multiple communities and across multiple universities, wouldn't getting them to unite online and see what happens, wouldn't that be an awesome political science experiment? And if and and I tried to say it in a nice way, but I said, if you're not conducting political science experiments, well, then aren't you simply political theory and political history? Because the science requires experiments. It requires testing boundaries and new things and proof of concept and those kinds of things. So it is a dilemma. I think what we'll do, if it's okay with you, if anyone else, or if you have something to say in closing, Jamie, feel free. But I'm gonna speak to everybody who's still here within the chat, and and especially to you, Jamie, for spending so much of your time and engaging with us here. And I know you've done that in the past and expressed some interest in working with us. I would say that everyone who's here, uh, Peter and Chardonnay and I and the team are going to be meeting tomorrow, and we're going to work on some of our strategies and tactics. Draco and I are going to come in and look at the videos. And by the way, Draco, you did some really good editing of those videos, including stuff that I didn't ask for. And I really appreciate that. And thank you very much for that. But to everybody who's here, the the fundamental basic thing that you can do if you would like to help support us is to share our content. As Jamie was talking about, how do we get this out so other people see it? How do they understand? How do we get more people to understand that there's actually this simple way that we can begin the process of giving people something to believe in, a way of believing that there are some possibilities for us to work together that haven't been there traditionally, and that we should at least not freaking give up on freedom and democracy. And we should recognize, as the UN says, as Locke and Rousseau referred to as the founding fathers of the United States, and every democracy in the world knew, freedom and democracy is about self-determination, and self-determination requires that you execute your and our response ability. And that, splitting that word into two, is a foundational premise of what IOD Nation stands for.
I like that.
We now have a new ability to respond. And that ability is to click our mouse or tap our screens and to engage with each other online. And that's, in the overall scheme of things, it's just not that much to ask. And if we ultimately are not capable and willing to do that, then, like Jamie was describing, this uber capitalistic um, technology, AI, bad actor led model that we're living with on the internet, they are either going to become the new dominion over our world, or we're going to unite and we are going to obtain dominion over them. And those are the only two options that are available. Right now, they're winning. We are capitulating. We're refusing our ability to respond to them by demanding that they meet our needs. And that's what Peter talked about. We're not asking them for permission, because there's a famous quote that says something, the powerful never give up power and influence. You have to rip it from their hands. And Sun Tzu said, the supreme art of war is to subdue your enemy without fighting. And then he said, opportunities seized multiply, and nothing multiplies like a movement and cohesive collaboration on the internet. It is the biggest multiplying factor in our modern world, and it's imperative that we utilize it. And we're asking you, everyone who's out there, to support us in Substack, to register to become a citizen, to tell people there's this group of crazy people who think that there's a way to empower all of us across the world in a free and democratic way that no one else is talking about. And you may think they're crazy, but at least go listen to them. And that's us.
Yeah, and I think that there's a window of opportunity coming, because there are a lot of good things
There
happening.
is. This is the
And
time.
it's going to be when Trump goes down, the rest of these people that don't have immunity are going to be left holding the bag. They're starting to prosecute them. They're starting to, learn their hard lessons that you can't use bullying as foreign policy. And when that starts to happen, the Democratic side is going to see that they've got a job to do too, because all of this has exposed both sides of at least our government if not, some bad actors in the global scene. And I think, that the UN is the way. But, there's other actors, there's other powers. There's a power vacuum at play too. So we have
I would
to.
I would take that back. There was somebody who made a comment. Let me see if I can find it here. And then we'll bring this show to an end.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Somebody
offend
made
anyone.
No, not at Jamie. We welcome you. We welcome you anytime. You're so calm and you're so reasonable, and we're not just looking for people who agree with us. And by the same token, please don't be offended if we or I push back, right? But there was a gentleman over here in the live chat, and he made a comment. He said, "What are you fighting against?" Okay, and this goes back to what Peter said. What we're doing, what we're proposing, what we're championing ultimately does fight against authoritarianism and the wealthy and the powerful. But we are not fighting against them. We are here for the launch of a bold new kind of freedom and democracy across the world. We're fighting for something. We are standing for something. We are here to build to see the citizens of the world. We are not as naive to think that we individually are going to be the ones who build this. We're just conduits. We're just water pipes, right? But we're saying to those water pipes of the authoritarians and all of that, we're going to be a big goddamn water pipe. And there's going to be a flood that comes through us eventually when the pro-democracy citizens of the world unite online. And you're going to have to deal with us. And you're going to have to figure out how to deal with the power and influence that these people across the world are going to develop by uniting. And I will be damned if I'm going to be a part of the generation that when the biggest democracy in the world is collapsing. And that's what's happening in the United States. Okay. Our Supreme Court's gone, our executive office is gone, our Congress has capitulated to the GOP and the people who are tearing apart our democracy. And that's okay. Democracies always fail, just like authoritarian regimes always fail. But I will be damned if I'm going to be a part of the generation that didn't help build the next great democracy like has happened throughout humanity. And I will especially be damned if I'm going to be a part of that when I had the ability to simply click a mouse or tap a screen to fight back and to build that new democracy. It's just a commitment that I've made. And I'm just this crazy guy who doesn't know how to use the internet, but I'm still going to keep talking about it. So, everybody who's here, we will do our next live on Monday. We are so thankful that you came here. Share us, join us, question us. We will get our act together. I was gone all last week. My son got married.
Yay!
But I'm
Yay. Life goes
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think
I'm trying to bring a little balance to my life. But
we
that doesn't
are,
mean
yeah.
we're stopping.
Right. And I'm never offended to have any kind of pushback. I think, debate and ideas and everything that we can throw together to make a better democracy salad recipe is fine by me. And I'm available tomorrow, to connect too.
Oh my God, we're going to connect tomorrow, Jamie. I would really like to talk to you about artists and music.
I like your voice, Jamie. Thank you. It's great to hear your input.
Right. And I love your picture with the sun shining through the clouds always.
Thanks.
Peter and Chardonnay, are you guys available to meet at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning?
I'm here.
Is
Yeah.
that Pacific?
Jamie, could you?
Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific Standard.
Yeah, I'm East Coast,
Would
so
that
that's
work
one
for you, Jamie?
Yeah, I can make that work.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know that Draco, I'm almost certain Draco and Rakesh can make that. So we're going to plan on a meeting. If any of you guys who are here listening to all of this, if any of you would like to come in and talk to us, we're going to be talking to Jamie about a number of things, but putting together some outreach to artists and some of her other expertise with our fun, but sometimes some limitations. But you can
I put out.
you can share your email with us. Register as a citizen. Go ahead, Chardonnay. You tell them what to do.
Oh, in a nice way. I put out into the information on the bottom. Some of the things I made a list and I emailed it to everybody here. An example of some of the things that people could volunteer for. And so if you saw it and you said, "Ooh, that looks good to me," and I also put out the bottom, or if you have any other ideas, if these gave you any other ideas or anything, please let us know and email us. And I put at hello and, hello at iadnations.org. And, but if that gave you any ideas, then please join us tomorrow because, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you volunteer. And I also invited people to become citizens and or volunteers. So, because we want you as citizens so our citizenship grows. And we also want you as volunteers because we love playmates. So, because
There you go, guys. Thanks to everybody. We got 146 people today.
You know how this works. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to tell you a secret how we got to 146 people. Okay.
Okay.
I sat here for the entire time and I hit the heart. Every time you hit the heart and you make the hearts go happy, 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 people go, "Oh, wow, those people exist. I didn't know they existed. They came up higher in the algorithm." And we get seen.
She's
So
right.
everybody has to hit the hearts. Everybody who comes to visit, everybody who's here, just please, please, please keep tapping those hearts because the more we tap, the more we get higher and higher and higher in the algorithm. And the more we get higher in the algorithm, the more people know about us because there are now so many people having lives. They have lives about everything and anything. I mean, I went to one guy's live and I swear it went live and he was sitting there eating cereal. And then, we thought, uh-oh, it went live. And he was just sitting there eating cereal. Nom, 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 nom. And then all of a sudden he said, "Oh, but he still didn't say anything or do anything. He was just eating his cereal." Now he's one of many. So the more we have to get above him, great. Because that's who we're fighting. We're fighting against all these many, many, many people lives. So that's how we have to do it.
I'm gonna kick in because Draco asked for something. He worked on a new intro video that we were gonna make a part of today's show. So all of you who are here, maybe you missed a big part of who and what we are. We're gonna play that video as our outgoing message. So
Oh boy.
it'll further inform you about what IOD Nation stands for. And if you got here late, oh, Rakesh made this one. That's correct. This was Rakesh's
Rakesh.
video.
Oh, Rakesh.
So
oh,
we're
Rakesh.
gonna
He makes so nice videos.
we're gonna
Awesome.
share this with you because I think a lot of you have come in here at the end of this, and this will
Yes.
help you understand better who and what we are. So this will be our outtake, and thanks everybody for being here, and we hope you enjoy the video. So take it away, Draco. Hit play.
Welcome to IOD Nations, International Online Citizen-Led Democratic Nations. Are you fed up?
I'm going to do this audio live.
And fearful about damn near everything related to freedom and democracy? Are you seeking your people? Sane, compassionate, literate, patriotic, law-abiding, and pissed-off people who despise pedophiles and are looking for a legitimate way to unite to fight back without having to surrender your whole existence and positive outlook on life? We at iodnations.org are your people. We have a simple, easily implemented badass plan for the future of freedom and democracy all across the world. International and national online citizen-led democracies like you have never imagined. Freedom and democracy are never stagnant. Democracy is either growing or it's shrinking. 10 years ago, I asked a simple question: why not unite pro-democracy citizens from all across the world in one strategic, tactical location, online, based upon this simple premise? If a business no longer requires brick and mortar, then a nation no longer requires land and borders. Years ago, no one seemed interested in discussing these ideas, much less acting upon them, until now. Currently, Taiwan, Ireland, the Netherlands, Iceland, Switzerland, Munich, and Barcelona have implemented or are implementing their own versions of online citizen-led democracy. We believe that within weeks and months this will become an international phenomena. Soon you will be reading and learning about how Taiwan and their online citizen-led democracy has now achieved a citizen approval of their government of 70%, all because of online citizen-led democracy. Think about that. Previously, they would have fistfights between their elected politicians, and only 9% of citizens approved of their government. Now, more than 50% of Taiwan's citizens are registered and active online as participants in their democracy, which 70% of them now approve of and support. That is the power of online citizen-led democracy. Despite this, all of these nations and citizens are making the same mistake. Unfortunately, they seem to only be focused on looking inward towards how their own digital democracies can help their individual nations and citizens. Think of it as if they are looking into their own mirrors to improve their individual nations. What they are missing, the future they are failing to comprehend, is this: what happens if and when the inevitable happens? What happens when all of the pro-freedom democracy citizens of the traditional world nations realize that our real power and influence for ourselves and our nations work together? What happens when the women of the world, the youth, the climate activists, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, artists, veterans, disabled, and so many others? What happens when the IOD Women's Nation of more than 1 billion online citizens collaborates with the IOD Youth Nation and others like Online Democratic Canada, Denmark, Greenland, Japan, Ukraine, and so many others? At iodnations.org, we intend to help the world's pro-democracy citizens and nations do more than look into their mirrors
to improve their individual situations. We intend to inspire people across the world like us. Our people, we intend to grow our movement to the point where we stop just looking in our individual or national mirrors, turn around and look to our brothers and sisters and others all across the world, our pro-democracy people, and say, welcome to this brave, bold new world of international, online democratic nations, IOD nations, and online citizen-led traditional nations. If you are our people, pro-democracy people, join us, help us, lead us. However, if you are not openly and clearly pro-democracy, we are iodnations.org, and we are about to make democracy offensive. The table is set. We are all already online together. Join us. iodnations.org. Why not? Unite online democratically.
Why is offensive a question?
Don't know. We need to go through and do our next set of edits. It's one of those things that came through because I was gone when Rakesh was doing this. He used AI and voice recognition to create that, and so I
Oh,
need
it's
to go through
beautiful.
and do the next.
It's beautiful. I love
I
it.
think I know it's a good word. We're not defensive anymore. We're offensive, but it's in the wrong context.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a bit
Exactly.
long.
Well,
exactly.
it is, Jamie, and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to try and tighten it up. I view offensive as a double entendre, right? Because it needs to be defensive or offensive strategically, like like you said, Peter, we're not waiting for people to give us permission. It's going to be offensive, and we're going to go out and make it happen, and the people of the world are going to go out and make it happen. But the other part is it also there needs to be, and I know Chardonnay is concerned about this, but I believe there needs to be a bit of an edgy, offensive part of the message to bring some of the people in, like Jamie was referring to, where they just think of democracy as this blase, never ending discussion that hasn't really worked. And we need to make it fun and edgy and a little bit
Universally attractive.
catchy.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yes. Well,
there's edgy. There's edgy. But the thing is, we got offensive with the orange president. He brought offensive to the nation. He brought offensive. We don't need more F thises and this and this. He brought offensive. He is offensive.
I
That's
agree.
not who we
But
that's not who we are. Can't
Yeah,
we
if
well,
he
be
brought,
like,
we need to bring love.
exactly. We need
we
to bring
can
the love. We can bring the fun. We can bring the excitement. We can bring the joy. We can bring those wonderful words. We don't have to be in your face, nasty, offensive. You know?
Yeah, and also I
I
think
will
people are kind of equating the word democracy with the same stale political arguments that they're shutting the TV off for. So
Exactly. That's
I
their problem. We have
I
to
will
teach them that democracy is energetic, that it's alive,
yes.
that it's exciting. That's what our job is. That's what we are doing with these new videos. This is our democracy. This is our idea of democracy. Wait, this is not your father's democracy. Okay, remember
Yes.
those
And
commercials?
what I would
This is okay. Continue. That's enough. I'm done.
well I would just say this is understand it's like freedom of speech, right? If you try to
impose too many boundaries on it, then it's not freedom of speech. And so there's just this delicate balance that ultimately the citizens are going to decide, and some of them are going to push those limits. And within this overall community of online democratic citizens, there will be contingents that are kind of vanilla. There will be contingents that are really edgy and in your face, and there will be other contingents that fall within the middle. And the citizens of those wide variety of democracies, they will figure that stuff out. They'll apply certain filters to it. It's a complex formula, and we're gonna try and do our best navigating that and take everybody's opinions into it. But
I
again,
agree,
you
definitely.
you'll never be successful if you create a message that's so homogenized that you're trying to appeal to everyone. Then
No, I
you
agree.
lose that edge. So we'll keep working on that. We invite I think that video, when I record the audio to it and I can put the emphasis on certain words, I think I can tighten it up
Yeah.
like Jamie was describing and shorten it. And it'll be like everything that we've done, right? Every time we get the chance and we improve something and we evolve it, we're doing a
Yeah.
better job of explaining this, and we're doing a better job of connecting with people. And that is our mantra. We're committed to uniting the people of the world online democratically, and we're committed to improving and moving ourselves forward on that as best we can every day. And that's why we're glad you're here. We thank you for staying, and come join us next Monday. Share us, subscribe. We haven't asked you for a paid subscription. If you have that ability, we could really use it. And if you don't, we still welcome you and we want to talk to you. And you're just as important as someone who sends money if you can't. We're about the mission, and thanks for being here, and have a great day, everybody. Um, Jamie, Peter, Chardonnay, I'm going to let you guys go. I need to get to work. Draco,
Joel,
I'm going to talk
before
to you for,
we end,
yeah,
we have
go ahead,
another
Draco.
guest. We have another guest here. Her name is Sharon.
Okay. Saren.
Sharon, yeah.
Saren,
Sharon.
come on in
Oh,
before we go.
Saren.
What do you have to say? Give us your best shot
Unmute
and tell
yourself,
people,
please. Please unmute
tell us
yourself
why
so
you're
we can
here.
hear.
We'd love to
Oh,
hear from you.
yeah, I saw the link pop up in my Substack app, and I was curious about what the Zoom meeting was about, so I joined.
Oh, thank
Darren,
you.
can
Okay.
I ask you
Did
where
you
you come from?
Yeah, Dallas,
Where are
Texas.
you? Texas?
Great. Thank you so much. So, how much
what
did you get to
what did
hear?
you yeah, what did you hear and what did you think?
Yeah, I saw the intro video, and then that you played, and then I heard the discussion after that. Yeah, it looks cool. Um, are you gonna do translations, like subtitles for people around the world? I mean, not. I mean, like English is like the primary business
Okay.
language, but like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, great thing.
Whoa.
Hey, Chardonnay, add that to our list.
There we go.
We're
We
a
need
small team.
translators. We need
Yep, we're a
translators. Thank
small
you very
group.
much.
We're a small group, Saren, and we want to reach out internationally. And that ability to translate those is another thing that I've thought about. We have challenges getting all the things done that we want to. And if anyone else out there, or yourself included, wants to volunteer when we get our next set of videos to their final stage and wants to help us with turning those into translated videos to in different languages, we would welcome that assistance. And if you don't, Saren, we will try and get that done as soon as we can within our pretty big list of things we're trying to get done. But it's an excellent
Darren, I love that. I love you for
insight.
thinking of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Are
What
you a
else you
funded
got?
And
group,
Jude,
or are you just volunteering your time and trying to bring people together?
I do a fair, well, for me, it's a fair amount of funding. In the overall scheme of things, it's quite minimal. I've got Draco and Rakesh and Nosib are from Bangladesh, and they're working with us, and I pay them. And that's what we do. Jamie is a volunteer. She has volunteered to come in and help us with some stuff. She's going to be in a meeting with us tomorrow. Uh, we could certainly have done a better job working with people who have volunteered as we're getting our structure and stuff together, and we're going to be doing that. But we're pretty darn small. We have a moderate amount of financial support on our Substack, and we welcome that. But we don't go out really asking for it. It's something where if you have the ability and you're motivated to do it, we would welcome it. But no matter what, you're welcome here, and we love hearing from you, and we will always engage with you. That's the best way I can put it, Saren.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So
Thanks for your input.
And yeah,
Do you have
Saren,
any other
thanks for being here.
suggestions or any ideas, or
Yeah.
how did it feel toward you? To you, how was the general feeling of everything?
It was the messaging was like broad, but maybe having those tools. I mean, like I know I'm not personally a fan of it, but it's the way social media is nowadays with TikTok. Um, like having long form video is cool, but also having those tools that break it up into short form, so that way you can target specific interest groups with the part
Right.
of the messaging that appeals to them in short form video, and then have the
Okay.
long form video for people who initially get attracted to the short form video, and see you can watch the whole videos at your YouTube link, or wherever you're gonna post it.
Sure.
It's a great idea,
That's
Saren, and that's one of the things that Draco and I are working. Draco does a lot of the videos for us along with Rakesh, and we are certainly working and moving in that direction. So thanks for the recommendation. You nailed it.
It's reinforcing what we were thinking of
Yeah.
doing in the next step. So that's great.
Yep. All right, guys, we really need to go. Thank you so much for being
Please
here.
return, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Chardonnay. Thanks, Joel.
You too. Thanks,
Stay out of
everybody. I
trouble.
love
Bye,
you
everybody.
all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Draco, I'm gonna reach out to you, Draco, in just a moment, okay?